Seneca Falls, a sleepy northern New York town nestled in the Finger Lakes. The longtime home of Karl Karlsen, a husband and father of three. Story of tragedy and terror would rock this small hamlet to its core.
Started saying, "Call 911, Levi is dead."
Ma'am, what's going on?
The truck fell on my stepson. Oh my God. This is horrible.
His 23-year-old son, Levi, dies in this tragedy.
At first, it didn't appear to be anything out of the ordinary.
No, it appeared to be an accident.
I remember people consumed by this story, and it only got more twisted as the years went on.
Wherever Karl goes, tragedy takes place.
Seemed like every couple years something was burning.
Cindy's concerned, okay, first wife dies in this tragedy, Levi dies in this tragedy, am I next?
When I met Karl in November of 1992, he was a single dad to his 3 children.
Karlsen's first wife, Christina, was 30 years old when she died in a tragic fire. Just years before he would meet his second wife, Cindy Karlsen.
He seemed like he was a hands-on dad. The youngest, Katie, adored her father. Aaron and Levi seemed to, they had a special bond.
Levi was amazing. He was so creative. He was very smart, but he had a learning disability, so when it came to bringing home good grades, he couldn't because of the disability.
He went through a rebellious time in his teenage years, and him and his father seemed to clash.
As he got older, he got into more of the metal music, and he kind of changed his appearance a little bit, but deep down he was always still that same goofy kid.
November 20th, 2008, 911 received a frantic call from Cindy Karlsen.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
Yes, I live at 885 Yale Farm Road.
Okay.
I think I need an ambulance.
Levi had come to the home of Cindy and Karl Karlsen at the request of Karl.
Karl told me that Levi was going to come out to work on an old farm truck that we had that day.
While Levi is in the garage working under that farm truck, Karl and Cindy are getting ready and dressed to go to a funeral.
I went and got in the passenger seat of the car, and Karl had told me that I'm just going to go out and let Levi know that we're leaving. It was just a minute or two. And then Karl came and got in the car. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary.
He and Cindy leave to go to a funeral done in Penn Yan, New York.
We were gone for 4 hours.
They return home. Cindy first notices Levi's car still parked in their driveway. She's kind of concerned.
I went into the house, and Karl came up to the window and the door and started banging and saying, "Call 911, Levi is dead."
Ma'am, what's going on?
The truck fell on my stepson.
The truck fell on your stepson?
And we just got home, and I don't think he's alive.
You don't think he's alive?
No, my husband's lifting up the truck.
Karl had pulled Levi out from underneath the truck, and you could see the indentation on his chest.
The truck was jacked up by a single railroad type jack.
Levi was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead.
Levi's 23 years old at the time of his death.
At first, it didn't appear to be anything out of the ordinary.
No, it appeared to be an accident. After Levi's death, the investigation was very cursory. General reports were filed. The doctor signed off on it. There was no autopsy. It gave every appearance of being an unfortunate accident.
It was shortly after Levi died that Karl had told me that Levi had a life insurance policy.
The life insurance policy that's taken out on Levi, it's beyond bizarre. Karl drives Levi, his 23-year-old son, to an insurance office, convinces Levi to take out a life insurance policy worth $700,000.
When I questioned Karl, why were you beneficiary? He had told me that because Levi was going through this nasty divorce. I just trusted my husband. There was no reason for me to question anything.
At the time, law enforcement didn't know about any of this. So once it was ruled an accident, it seemed like it was case closed.
I assume it was some sort of a deja vu moment for Karl, that he'd been there before. In '91, he had lost his wife and lost his home and everything they owned.
On New Year's Day, 1991, a house fire tore through the Karlsens' California home.
I heard my mother screaming, and I went to the door. It was slightly ajar, so I kind of, peeked out the door.
And at 4 years old, I don't think I really understood what was happening, but I saw it down the hallway. It was engulfed in flames.
Karl says he breaks the windows of his kids' rooms and gets them out, but couldn't get to his wife, Christina.
Christina Karlsen perished in the house fire. They found her doubled over outside of the tub with a rag covering her face.
My father had said, Mommy's gone to heaven. Even before the ambulances got there, the firefighters, while we're sitting in the truck. We didn't understand, of course, the gravity or what it really meant, but we knew, so we were all really quiet.
Karl tells investigators how he thinks the fire started.
He had been working that day of the fire. He was working in the attic area.
Karl says he was using a trouble light up in the attic for light just before he went out to the garage.
Karl's claimed that the trouble light, which either fell from the attic or which he left on the kerosene spill, likely caused the fire.
Christina's death is ruled an accidental death. Karl Kent, who was the investigator for California Department of Forestry, he had a lot of questions about the cause and who started this fire.
And it didn't help that Karl had taken out an insurance policy on Christina just weeks before that deadly fire.
Karlsen went to an insurance agent and bought a $200,000 policy on his wife.
The fact that the policy was purchased 19 days before Christina's death, I think, rang the alarm bells in the head of State Farm Insurance.
State Farm brought in Ken Buskey.
Typically, I'm hired by an insurance company to answer what the cause of the fire is.
But when that investigator looked at that severely burned light, he was able to determine that the filament had not been energized at the time of the fire, meaning the light wasn't on.
If a bulb is off, of course, it's not apt to be the cause of the fire. Mr. Karlsen's story simply couldn't have been true.
So Ken Buskey turns his report into the insurance company, telling them he's convinced that this was no accident.
But for whatever reason, that report didn't stop the insurance company from paying out the claim.
Karl was paid $215,000, and it was not explained why their recommendation to not have him be paid out was overlooked.
The insurance company did a very good investigation. Law enforcement, it didn't seem, was doing anything.
I never saw Mr. Buskey's report. I didn't know who Mr. Buskey was.
It just seemed like when Karl moved to New York a few days after the fire, it's like everything stopped. And there wasn't much follow-up.
I asked if they would front the monies for me to travel back there and interview him.
Karl Kent wanted to go to New York to interview Karlsen in person, but his superiors turned him down, saying that there just wasn't enough money for that kind of trip.
The DA's office said it was a good circumstantial case, but there wasn't enough to prosecute at that time.
When we come back, tragic accidents or heinous crimes.
Did he get away with murder not once, but twice?
And what would blow both cases wide open? Stay with us.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.